I am so excited to talk to Jocelyn and Kristen again. We had a big long break because Kristen moved all the way to Florida. And in this pandemic, she moved all the way to Florida. So she and Jocelyn were very busy. They were developing 2 parenting courses, one about parenting through and after a divorce, and one about just resilience-based parenting. We talk about both on this episode, as well as how we're dealing with COVID, what's stressful about COVID, about my collapsing from being exhausted, and how other people must feel as worn out as I feel in this time period by some of the extra things you're having to manage. And I think it was a really great conversation. I'm always so impressed with these 2 women. They're so smart and beautiful and bright and positive, and they just want a better world for everybody. And I love that. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. McDermottmethod.com/WOTP is where you can go to find Kristen and Jocelyn's resilience-based parenting course. It is a course where you get like a 10-minute audio session or session episode, whatever you want to call it, and then a follow-up kind of email with an exercise to do that helps you raise resilient children. And it's really for any age child. So if you have teenagers like me, don't think it doesn't apply. I think it does. So I'm going to join them right now, and I hope you do too. And if not, you can always check out McDermottmethod.com and see what else they have available. The divorce-based parenting is also available at McDermottmethod.com. So thank you for showing up again this week, and thank you for all the emails, and thank you everyone who says this podcast is helpful for them. That makes me so happy. It's really helpful for me too. It's very selfish that I do this podcast. So it's good that in my selfishness, it helps other people. That's really great. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy Jocelyn and Kristen.
I love, Leanne, that you get Bert's belly right beside your head.
Oh, well, I could have this. Would you rather have that?
Kind of, yeah.
No, you wouldn't trust me, because when I sit at his desk, his weenus is right here. It's just hovering right here.
You guys give me a second. I'm going to figure out the video.
No, I don't know. I'll take this all day long. All day long over that. This was.
Oh my God. That's so funny. Wait, didn't some random fan send that to you guys or something?
It wasn't actually as random. It was, the show they were shooting for Netflix had that commissioned. And then they were like, well, what do we do with it? Just throw it out? And Bert was like, no, send it to my wife, please. Yeah. So lucky.
That's so great. Yes, like anyone else in the world would want it. That would be terrifying.
Well, when he first got it, he hung it over George's bed.
Oh my God. She definitely needs therapy.
And she was like, oh my God. We did an episode, the 3 girls, and part of the episode on the podcast was talking about the effects of this portrait. She was like, I really don't ever need to see my dad like that ever.
Oh God.
I don't need him to be walking around in a Speedo. I don't need.
Oh, yay.
Hi.
Like magic.
I know. I love that fireplace. That's such a pretty fireplace.
Thank you.
It's a great background. It's better than Kristen was saying, this may not be my optimal background right here.
I was saying that. I kind of like it.
But this is better than this.
No, I want that one.
That's what she said. Hands off, lady. He's all mine. How have you been? Can you hear me?
Jocelyn, that's for you because we've already done the how have you been thing.
Oh, yeah. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm still getting set up. God, you guys are, I'm normally so on time. You guys have like really outpaced me.
No worries at all.
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're good. I see you have been putting McDermott Method video Zoom clips up on Instagram. They're awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, thank you. We've finally decided, just the 2 of us, just to try to like see what happens if we just, chat, which usually one of those little 2-minute clips takes us like 5 tries over 5 days. And we literally hate each other by the end of, well, we don't hate each other. We hate the process.
We hate the process. My There's something very, very wrong with my internet, and we have bought all the upgrades. We've done everything we can, and it's just a disaster. So I'm probably going to glitch out. But every time Kristen and I record something, like it'll be so good, and then my internet will crash mid-sentence. And we're like, oh, God.
That's really frustrating.
So frustrating.
Yeah.
She'll be like Japanese movie, and then she'll come back, and then, it's just.
It's going to happen today. So.
Oh, life in the times of COVID. The positive things it's brought, like innovation, like Zoom. Like
Totally.
Everybody does this now, which is kind of amazing. And, there's a lot of other not great stuff. But it's great that I like seeing both of you talking to each other about resilience and parenting. I think it's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, we launched our parenting course last week. So we had our divorce course, and then we launched the parenting course on Friday.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit so people know what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kristen, go ahead.
Have we started? This always happens.
We started way before.
This always happens where I'm like, are you going to tell us to go?
By now I'm super casual. I know you guys are like, so tell me about the parenting method.
That's why it takes us,
Jocelyn.
That's why it takes us so long to get a video out, because it's like so stilted for the first 15 tries. And then we just give up.
We need to start having like a glass of wine at 7 a.m. before we do
Not
it.
a bad plan.
What do you mean start? I thought that was allowed during COVID.
You mean continue having glasses of wine. So tell me about the parenting series. Or is it a series?
It is a series. It's actually an entire year. So we basically, what I have learned over the last 20 years of doing this, and actually the last 10 years of doing online things. I mean, actually with the whole cancer curriculum, we were just kind of way before our time, I think. Just now, finally, people are getting what it's like to go online and get these things. But is that you got to make it shorter and shorter and shorter. And so just, little bite-sized pieces. And so even the divorce one, which we launched a couple of months ago, we now realize was just overload, because we were sending a whole 10-minute audio lesson, sometimes even 15 minutes, every single day for 49 days.
Oh, wow.
And I think people kind of get the idea that like if you miss one, you fall behind, which isn't true. But anyway, so for the parenting one, we're trying to make it so that it doesn't feel like a burden at all. And so we're sticking with the audio lesson thing. I really like the audio lessons because you can just click play wherever you are. You're walking the dog, you're washing the dishes, you're driving the kids. Well, you're not driving the kids to school now, but you get it. Yeah. And it's 10 minutes at the most. So you're just getting whatever the lesson for the week is. And then a couple days later, we're going to send you an assignment. And it's something, they're pretty simple. They're just conversations to have with your family members that do things like build your home culture or help people identify their needs, build your kids' strengths, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And those assignments always come with a worksheet. And then we always provide, more resources if people want to go deeper. So it's one topic a week. And you get 3 emails, and we're trying to make it so it's small enough that it'll fit in people's lives and they'll actually do it. So I think we've accomplished that.
I love that. So how do I sign up?
So you go to, our cart closes today. When's this podcast coming out?
Yeah. Thursday. Can you leave it open?
No, but we'll reopen it for your people on Thursday. We'll give you guys a special link. So,
good.
Yeah, so it will be at McDermottmethod.com/WOTP.
Method.com/WOTP. Okay, I'll put a link to that on my website too.
Awesome. That won't be up until Thursday, but if you want to do it today, it's at resiliencebasedparenting.com. But Thursday for all your viewers, and we'll just keep it up.
You said that too fast. What? Resiliencebasedparenting.com. Okay, parenting.com. So in the future, I'm assuming this will launch again, right?
Yes, it will. Yep.
Yes.
So in the future, people could go to, like, if someone comes across this particular episode of this podcast in 6 months, they can go to resiliencebasedparenting.com and see when your next series launches. Is that
what
right?
did we decide, Jocelyn? I know I ask you this every time, but what did we decide about how often we're going to launch them? What'd you say? Quarterly?
Quarterly.
Yeah. Okay. So every quarter we'll have a new class of people who can go through.
Awesome. And are you going to, like, if I do my quarter and graduate, is there going to be another level?
Yeah. So what we wanted to do, so we have 10 pillars. And so what we wanted to do is basically cycle through them each time so that in the first one, you're just kind of getting a feel for what are all the 10 pillars. And then we're going to start cycling through so that you're building on your skills.
So you're drilling down in the next series.
Exactly.
Is this. Okay. I love this idea. This is a great idea. I wish I had this idea when I had really small kids, because then, foundation building is so important when you're parenting.
Well,
right?
And don't you remember? I mean, I remember when my kids were small and it was so overwhelming and you had to read whole books.
Yeah.
I mean, I had shelves of books, but like you read a whole book and you underline and everything, but then it's like, wait, what was that? You have to go back to the bookshelf and get it out. And so we're trying to pull out little bite-sized pieces and organize them in a way that you can, they're always available for you online. Right. I mean, they come in your inbox, but then they're always there really easy if you just want to, go to the portal.
I think that's amazing. I'm really excited about that. This is really, really great. So I'm going to sign up today for me.
Yay. It also seems like it was interesting because we decided to use the pandemic because people are on top of each other and it's just sort of exacerbating the things that are already challenges in your family. And so we use that as a lot of our examples right now. And then hopefully as we transition back into regular life, whatever that means at some point, then, all that stuff is still valid, but then we'll start to, use other things. But for now, there's so much good, bad stuff to talk about because of the pandemic.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about good, bad stuff with the pandemic. Was because there's definitely good and bad stuff going on in my house relative to the pandemic. Example 1, my highly social, completely socially motivated, somewhat learning disabled 14-year-old. This has been borderline disastrous for her. Her motivation for learning is 100% social.
Yeah.
She bases her achievement on how she's doing within the context of her peer group. And she has no peer group. So since March, she has become almost afraid of social situations. Like she's forgotten how to be social and has been really struggling with school in a different way. She has absolutely no motivation whatsoever to invest in school in any way, shape, or form. So I've been going back to your book about resilience, reading chapters here and there about, hey, this is what's going on. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. I don't know what it is about this moment in time for her has been really, really difficult. Yeah.
I mean, that social piece is probably the single most common thing that I hear in my private practice. It doesn't matter if someone is 10 years old or, 50 years old. Not everyone is like super motivated or just kind of energized and stimulated by people. Some people have other ways that they kind of fill themselves up. But for a lot of people, not having that is really throwing them for a loop. I mean, it makes me think of, how babies literally don't thrive. They call it failure to thrive if they aren't, touched, and if they aren't, we are social beings.
Yeah.
And it's like a plant with no water when we don't have that. I mean, I hear you, and it's like, I feel like in the beginning, people were good about trying to reach out and make sure they did FaceTime and doing Zoom calls and all that kind of stuff. But now people are sort of just over that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have to still find ways to be social because some of us, can't handle it if we don't have that in our lives. I mean, so what are her options for being social right now?
Well, we have a couple families that are all in bubbles kind of together. So, we've been getting together with those other families a little bit, and that gives her a little bit. It's still, she's a freshman in high school. She was really looking forward to finding some new friends. So I'm not sure her circle is completely her jam. Our bubble is not really her jam.
Yeah.
Even though it gives her a social outlet, it's really not her jam. So I don't really know what to do. We've been thinking about with school just having little Zoom party, would just get to know people. But I don't know anybody at her new school. So it's just really challenging going to a new school. I know one other parent who we already have a relationship with. So it's not like, and she only knows me. So we don't have any resources outside each other. But the thing that's been concerning me with her is understanding when to push her out of her comfort zone and when to leave her alone in the context of what's happening right now. She really is scared of COVID. She's really, really scared. So like one of her favorite things to do, perfect example, first day of school, 4 years now, for 9 years on the first day of school, we've been walking to Menchie's to get yogurt. Tradition, right? Menchie's is 1 block away. And on the first day of school, I said, let's go to Menchie's and get yogurt. She was like, nope, not in a pandemic. And I was like, listen, we put masks on, we get the yogurt to go, we come home and we eat the yogurt at home, we wash our hands, we can't stop living life. And it's safe there. They're open. They're allowed to serve frozen yogurt. This is a safe option for COVID. And it took me like 20 minutes to talk her into going. And I kept saying, we can't stop life entirely. We have to just proceed safely. Use our noodle, proceed safely, and do our very best. And, but that's one of those times where I was like, do I push her into this or do I leave her alone?
I mean, that's interesting because then now you're talking about is like the whole conversation about what is safe and what is not. And I feel like our kids and people, people are getting conflicting information. So as a family, as parents, we have to stay on top of that and figure out like what's going on in our kids' heads. Because sometimes they have stuff in their heads that we don't even necessarily agree with maybe, Right. And it's interesting because it's like, it's changing all the time. Your kid can hear something that you didn't even realize they heard. And then, pushing about safety is interesting because you want your kids to trust you, but it's not just like a one conversation thing. It's like you did, it took 20 minutes and then sounds like you were able to convince her.
Yes, we went and she was okay. But it was one of those times where I go, I actually like her way of thinking. And I'd said that to her. I like how you're thinking. This is good. Because then I think, well, she's going to be very careful. Once this all opens up, she's really aware. Or if we open up a little bit, like if she goes back to school in a hybrid format, I know that she's going to be hyper aware of her safety, which is great, but it can't shut you down. Can't let it just shut you down. I think her inclination is to let it shut her down. And it's just the worst thing for her because she's so social. She's afraid to be with people, even in our bubble. I didn't realize that she had so much anxiety until this happened. And now I find her to have a lot of anxiety.
But specifically about the fear of COVID.
I think so. But, living with someone who has an anxiety disorder, I sniff the similarities. Of going, somebody might have their daddy's panic attack, anxiety stuff, even though she doesn't really have panic attacks, is very similar to her dad's. Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi. Sorry, you guys. If it happens again, I'll just leave. And you guys can carry on without me.
No, keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
All right.
Well, I have a question for you because I always think in times like this is like to have yourself look for the exceptions. So, when are those the best times? Like, when are the moments that it seems like she's the best? Like, can you pinpoint those? Like, when it's like, I don't know, when she's not thinking about that or she's kind of more herself. Are there any that come to mind?
Yes, she has 2 friends who are, again, in a bubble, in some of our bubbles. And when she's just with those 2 girls by herself, she seems to forget everything. It's the social piece again.
But I think that's interesting because like sometimes and those are the people who might not totally be her jam, you said, right? They're not like, but you can see from the outside that even though that's true, it's the best that she's got right now. And it's like, so I, as a mom, would just try to promote, and which you're doing, those moments of her, forgetting, because she may in her head may have that story, which is maybe true. It's like, yeah, it's fine, but they're not like my favorite people. I kind of want new friends. But if you see that it gives her a break, push that, because sometimes our kids, they're not, putting two and two together, and it's hard to think of those things. So you have to look for like, when are those moments that sometimes our kids would miss, like when they do feel like they get a break from it.
Right.
What else? Anything else besides that? Anything, like I always think, there's the using of your mind piece, right? The people I know who have projects, and I know she's a kid, so she has got school, so that this may not, but it's like the project, whether it's creative project or, like Jocelyn and I have been super busy with work because we've been launching this those kind of things. It does pass the time, it does get you engaged. So it's that sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. Anything like that for her?
I've been trying. This is what she's doing all day.
Yeah.
All day. That's what she wants to do all day. So regulating that has been so exhausting for both my kids. They just want, but the problem is what she's doing on this is FaceTiming her friends. So I have a hard time saying no, because that's what she needs. Both my girls are on FaceTime all day because they need that connection.
Yeah,
but for me, that's another one of those things. How long does that go on? Because what I've noticed is, I read this book called Untangled about raising teenage girls. It was a great book. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I remember from that book was that it's hard FOMO is really hard at a teenage level, extremely hard. So if 3 friends are FaceTiming and you are trying to self-regulate and go, I've been on here for a while, I should probably get off. It's not going to happen because they're teenagers. And then mom comes in, and it's so anxiety producing for them to be removed from the group that it is hard for me, like I was saying with Isla, with her little anxiety stuff that's shown up since Corona has started, to know when I need to go. No, you absolutely have to get off FaceTime. She has the 2 friends that are in the bubble literally are on FaceTime from like 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And they'll be doing stuff in their room. One of them's knitting, the other one's maybe reading a book, but they need the connection. Mm-hmm. But Isla doesn't function like that. Isla goes like this. And just watches them on FaceTime. I'm like, well, if you were knitting or reading a book while they were on FaceTime, I would be better about that. Or drawing, Or
that's what I was going to say. What about something creative like that? What about
But she's like, I don't feel like drawing. I don't want them to see what I'm drawing. They're going to ask to see it. It's very private and I don't want that. Okay. Play solitaire with a deck of cards, right? At least that's not an electronic. And no, I don't want to do that. I don't really like solitaire. So I can't get her. She's the most stubborn human on the planet. I can't get her redirected into something creative because she's so focused on being connected. And I'm actually having the same issue with Georgia. Is Georgia just wants to be on her FaceTime all the time because they need the connection.
I mean, I know, and I kind of feel like this is a unique time where, as much as you want to regulate that normally, it does feel exceptional right now that, it's like that need to be with your peers. That phenomenon that was happening where kids were staying up all night and sleeping all day. Did you read about that?
No.
Yeah, so high school and college kids both being back in their parents' homes without, this wasn't like everybody called each other and said, let's do this. It just started happening because they, A, wanted to be away from their parents' control because they've been living, well, high schoolers not so much, but always underneath your parents' control, and B, bothered by their parents with their friends. And so they just started staying up later and later and later and all night and then sleeping all day. And it makes sense. They're supposed to be with their peers.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be pulling away from their parents in appropriate ways. This has just been a situation that is mostly not positive in those ways. You're not supposed to have to, regulate your kids every moment of every day and be responsible for them. Yeah.
Yes, that's how I feel. I keep trying to say to Isla, because she's in a brand new school with a brand new way of working, I keep saying, you have to, in your brain, think, I'm physically in school, even though you're in your room. So the things that you're doing in your room while you're in school, you would never do at school. But that is so hard for her to regulate, because it's her room. It's her safe space. It's her stuff. There's so many distractions. And, we don't have a house that's large enough to have a study space that's not her room. We tried that in 8th grade, and it was a disaster. There's too many distractions in the house. She needs to be in her room with the door closed to be able to focus. So I feel like in some ways they're in a bit of an arrested development, right?
I think you're right.
That we just are in this holding pattern. It's such an important time of their lives. 14 and 16 is so kind of formative.
But think about it, it's formative because like in those little ways, they get to make their own decisions and take a few little risks, and like maybe it works out and maybe it doesn't. And now there's no opportunity for any of that.
Yeah.
So, it is arrested development. I think you're totally right. And so, every situation is different. It's like, I don't know how you hook a kid in, and how do you try to get your kids' little bubble of people to schedule at some point, like to make it so you all agree on some period of time during the day when you're going to separate from each other and do, something. Like, my kids, I'm able to get my kids to work out just because they buy into that. Like they just stopped liking sitting around. Like we had a few weeks of just sitting around, and then they just were like, I feel awful.
Yeah.
So, like trying to get their friends to have something scheduled.
Right.
So that they get unhooked for a little bit of time. But like each kid's different. Like what's worth it? What'll make them walk away?
Yeah, what'll make them walk away? I one of the two moms I think would be on board with me with saying, okay, from noon to 2 off. But I'm not sure the other one has that much regulation happening in her house in general. So I don't know if it would work for that one. So
that's interesting because Jocelyn and I were talking about how that sort of lack of structure that's happened. Now school's starting, so it's different, but has been really hard on parents. So, it's not just for the kids that we need to kind of take control of the schedule, but as parents, I find myself just a short order cook. It's like someone walks out of their room at some random time, and once I don't even know what meal it is. It's like, if I don't go to my office, I spend all day cooking little meals for people in my house.
Yeah.
And so, it's like as much for the parent as for the kids. Like there's got to be some kind of structure, I think. But you guys are in school now, right? So isn't that happening again? Like at least the having to get up and do
sort
that?
of. It is still, this is their second and a half week of school. They had a half week and then a full week. This is their second full week. And I have to say, this online learning, their high school is doing a phenomenal job. And you have to be a self-starter, really, for this to really work. And I have one self-starter. And I have one not self-starter. And the not self-starter is the 9th grader who is brand new format, brand new, way of learning, brand new computer. She's on a ThinkPad. She's always had an Apple product. So, it's not that big of a difference, but it is a little bit of a difference, a little learning curve with that. And getting her to understand what they're trying to accomplish, because they gave us a schedule, they have only 2 days a week where they are online with a teacher. The other 3 days a week, they have things to do, like teachers will record a lecture from which they have to take notes, or they'll have a YouTube video from which they'll have to take notes, or have a quiz, or they'll have online ed puzzles and stuff they have to do. So they have schoolwork 5 days a week. But only 2 of those days are actually face-to-face with an adult.
So I haven't heard of that. That makes it way harder.
It's very hard for a non-self-starter 14-year-old who is motivated fully by her peer group. There's no peer group. So it's been a real struggle to get her to understand that her 9 to 10 is biology class. Even though no one's watching, 9 to 10 is biology. And then 10:15 to 11:15 is algebra. Even though no one's watching, it's still algebra. So if you don't get up and do your subject, because the way they're kind of handling it is the teacher is literally at her desk, at her computer. And if you have a question, you can Zoom her really quick and say, hey, I don't understand this algebra problem. Can you explain it? But she's not actually lecturing or teaching. So they are doing, it's called asymmetrical?
Asynchronous.
Asynchronous, yes. Asynchronous learning for those 3 days a week. And that's been really hard because I can't get her to understand why she can't just start her day at 11 if it's her own day. And I'm like, because you wouldn't do that if you had to physically go to school. If they said you had to be at school at 9, you would be there. You're never late for school because of the social piece. But now she's like, screw it. I can start at 11. What's the big deal? But not understanding that you're missing the opportunity to get help from your teachers. It's been really hard to get her to get that.
Sounds like it. I haven't heard of that. Anyone having to deal with that. I mean,
that's the way our school was too.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that just seems like it's hard on the parents.
Oh, it was absolutely awful. I mean, now it's my kids are doing an online school now that was online before this started, and it's all asynchronous. But that's actually better because they can do it, at night. They can do it on the weekend whenever they want.
So did you move them out of their school? You did.
Mm-hmm.
But you have teachers too. So when do they access the teachers?
So they can Skype them, and then there are optional help labs.
Are they enjoying it?
We're on day 4, and half of the days have been like really hard, but half of them have been great. I'm really positive. Like I feel really optimistic about it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a permanent shift?
Oh no.
She's gone.
She finally spoke and now she's...
It shut her down.
Oh, there she is.
You're back. Sort of back.
I'm going to stop talking.
No,
we want you to talk.
I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm just going to wave occasionally.
So just write a note card and hold it up. And we'll read it.
We have turned off every other wireless device in this house. This is the only thing connected to our Wi-Fi, and it's still doing this. I don't know.
Do you think this is a permanent shift? Do you think your kids will just continue to, is it considered homeschool or?
It's not. It's an actual accredited school. I think that we'll see. We'll see how the year goes.
But are you committing to the year or just, you are.
Committing to the year, yeah. We officially pulled our kids from the private school in April, I think. And just, kind of guessing that this was going to happen and put them in the online school. And I feel really good about it. They can work at their own pace. They can move ahead if they want to. They can slow down if they need to. Like I said, 2 of the days were horrible, just like learning something new. Mm-hmm. Really frustrating for me, but usual.
But what?
Not in a way that's unusual,
I see. Yeah. That's interesting. You pulled them in April.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. Again, if Isla had not been socially locked into her 8th grade class, and 8th grade being an emotional kind of moment and having this graduation, even though we didn't have any of it, she didn't see any of her peers, I probably would have pulled her too.
I didn't pull them out in April. I just knew in April we're not sending them next year. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you meant you stopped in April.
No, we suffered through that end of year bullshit. It was awful, but we suffered through it. Yeah,
it was. It was one of the most stressful, frustrating moments of parenting in the 16 years I've been a parent.
Yep.
It was not for Georgia because Georgia's school kind of just pivoted and listened. When parents called and said, this is too much work, my kid's spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day in front of a computer, they adjusted, they listened. And then I think that's part of why they decided to do this format this time, was to let them, if you needed to do something else on a Monday, you could start your work at 11 or 12 if you needed to. You could work for an hour, take an hour off, work for an hour, take an hour off, if that works better for you, and not just be staring at a computer. I think that's their philosophy. Because they've sent us this model saying that kids should be working in 25-minute increments. You work 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break, 25-minute, 5-minute break. And then you have a 15-minute, actually it's a 20-minute break because you have a 15-minute break between classes. And they ask them to get up and leave their study area for that 5-minute break. Go to the bathroom, go get a snack, go see your pet, go check the mail, just leave. And then come back and do 25 minutes of work. And then you're done with that class period. That's an hour. And you have a little break and do it again, 25 minutes, 5. And I've looked at Isla's agenda, and they've broken her daily work down like that. I have one assignment that was half an hour. The rest of it was 15-minute assignment and a 10-minute assignment. And then you take a break. So they're trying to help them manage their time on the computer. But I have never been so stressed as a parent as I was from March to June.
And so what were you able to do for yourself, just to manage that stress? When you're really in the beginning, especially when you were, afraid and trapped in your house, what did you do?
Nothing. I guess you guys didn't listen to my podcast from last week. I collapsed 2 weeks ago from exhaustion and injured myself quite badly and ended up in the hospital. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Cha-ching! Winning as a parent.
Seriously, Leanne.
You right here? That's almost healed. They glued my chin back together. Yeah, it was pretty fancy.
So wait, how did what? Give us I know you just talked about it, but just the 1-minute version.
I got up, was walking to get my cat out, and I basically just kind of collapsed while walking at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and really didn't think I'd hurt myself that bad, even though I had a nosebleed, inside my mouth bleed, this was bleeding, huge contusions on my body. I just put everything back together and was like, I got to meet my contractor. I got to work out at 10. And my friend Sandy called me and went, you need to stop. We got to go check you out. So I went to the hospital and they were like, yeah, people don't just collapse. This is something. They ran every test under the planet. And when I was in the ER, I started asking God what this was. I was like, what is going on here? Is this my brain? And before I could even get the word brain formed in my brain heard the word exhaustion. And I went, no. Is it cancer? Exhaustion. No. There's no way I collapsed from exhaustion. No way. So is this a heart issue? No, exhaustion. Before I could even get it, and I was like, okay, I should probably listen to that. That's my instinct telling me I might just be exhausted. And so I started piecing together why that would be. And I realized that probably late September last year, we got on a fast train of relentless work for Bert's business, buying a house, producing. I was helping in a great deal with his shows that were going on for Netflix. I was doing a lot of heavy lifting with that. And then COVID hit, where all that continued through COVID. And because of COVID, Bert was not comfortable with me having someone clean our house. So I then am now cleaning the house. He was not comfortable with anybody walking the dog, not comfortable with any tutors in our house, which I had for Isla. So all my support system that I had set up for myself so that I could support his career and do my own stuff, what left in the middle of all this intense, make hay while the sun shine opportunities were hitting the ground for Bert that I was having to be a great deal of support for. And teaching 8th grade, 2 to 3 hours a day. I'd have to sit with Isla 2 to 3 hours a day and drag her heels dug in through mud to learn the shit she needed to learn so she's not lost in 10th grade. And, and then recently Priscilla passed away, my dog, really suddenly. And that was a huge blow for me because she was someone I spent a lot of time with. She was a big support for me. And 2 weeks after she passed away, I just went downtown because I haven't been taking care of myself because there was no space for it. There was absolutely no space for it. All the fail safes I had in place before COVID left and came back to me. Now, don't get me wrong. I did enlist my children to help me clean the house. They were fabulous. We cleaned the house top to bottom every Thursday. They never complained. They did a great job. So I didn't do it by myself. But let's face it, one person drives this train.
Yeah.
One person drives the 8th grade train. One person was allowed to go out in public because my husband has anxiety and buy groceries. One person did any car repair, errand running, Target pickup. That was me because he was so afraid of COVID and he thought my immune system is so good and he has asthma that I should go forth. Not to mention, he snores. And typically he's gone 5 days a week, but I have not been sleeping effectively since March.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you go, and then you go on vacation and you get sick because you've been going so hard and then finally you relax and your body just gets sick. I think that's what happened. I had been going at such a pace since late September that school started. Bert went on the road. I finally got a couple nights of really good sleep. And my body just was like shutting down. We're just going to shut you down entirely and have you recalibrate everything. So I was not taking care of myself. That's the answer to that question. Not at all. And I don't know how I could have. I didn't have 1 minute in the day. I did continue to work out. I did lose 20 pounds in the pandemic. So that's pretty impressive. So I did take care of myself. And I continued therapy. So I had this small lane where I convinced myself that was enough, and it just wasn't enough. So,
I mean, I feel like there are a lot of moms with that story in this country, right? Well, not just this country, but I mean, yeah, especially with the school age kids. It's just like you said, like, what are you going to do? Like you did therapy, working out. I mean,
I was eating well, clearly, because I lost 20 pounds. So I was eating very healthy. I was trying to sleep, but not able to sleep well. I really was. I don't know what else I could have done other than just not teach school, which I wasn't willing to do. She's a kid that needs a lot of support. She's not a self-starter. And the modalities they were teaching, I mean, like she had 7 teachers and every single teacher used a different modality. One would use Google Teams. One would use Schoology. One would use Zoom. I had to make a spreadsheet of what class. One teacher used a different modality on different days. So you had to remember that Monday he's on Zoom, but Wednesday he's on Microsoft Teams. I mean, there's no way that this kid could keep up with this. I couldn't even keep up with it. It was so freaking stressful. And you're right. I think there are a lot of moms and probably dads that find this completely overwhelming. And I kept going, I keep forgetting that I work. Which is so stupid because I work so much for Bert, but I keep thinking, what do people do that work? And then I go, wait, I work all the time. I just make my own hours. But my thought is, what do people do who have a 9-to-5 type job, even if they're working from home? How in the world, and how are we building resilience in this time period? I've been reading your book to my kids, and some of it I go, this is really hard to do in this moment. It's hard.
Like what? Will you give an example of that? Does anything come to mind?
Nothing comes to mind, but I remember going, but right now this is hard. And I don't remember I don't remember. I wish I had written it down.
Support is hard right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Support is hard right now. For me, support is almost impossible because even after this collapse, and I called Bert and said, I believe this is why this happened. He said, I believe you're right. And I was like, well, I think I'm going to hire someone to come back to clean our house and have them wear a mask and just either leave and stay in the yard or whatever. And he was like, no, that's really irresponsible. We can't do that yet. So I'm still in the same boat then. I'm still kind of continuing on in the same path. How do I regulate myself? So what I've started trying to do is taking my ridiculous to-do list and saying 2 a day. You can only do 2 a day. That's all you get. Instead of 10, you get 2. And after that, you just got to just like be in the space, right?
And does it work? Can you do it?
Well, it's only been a week. But yeah, so far it's been okay. Last week, this happened not last Friday, but the Friday before. So I gave myself until Monday to just unplug entirely, to just not worry about anything and to just let myself sleep if I needed to sleep, to not clean the house, to not walk the dogs. And that was actually really hard because I'm used to spinning so many plates. I had to really regulate myself to just do nothing for a week. Not nothing, obviously, but to really pare down to almost nothing. And then Monday came and I was, of course, completely overwhelmed yesterday from sunup to sundown. And then today is no different. But I am only doing 2 things today. I have this podcast and I have a meeting about my Girl Scout troop, and that's it. That's all I'm doing. So I'm trying.
I mean, doesn't it feel like a little bit like you're not alone in terms of the paring down? I mean, because I hear that from other people too. It's like it's just not happening. And so everyone's getting a little bit of a break, in terms of the expectations.
Yes, I think that is happening for me now. My friend Sandy showed up on Sunday. I was released from the hospital Saturday. She came Sunday and was like, I feel like everyone else in COVID slowed down and you triple timed because of everything that came back to me. So she was like, you need to do what everybody else is doing and just slow down.
Right.
So I think now I'm at that mindset. And I think that's the way to go, is to think, why do I need that done now? For me, what was going on in that time period was I had deadlines with Isla for school. We had deadlines for Netflix that were real deadlines that I think other people didn't really have as much of. So we didn't have a lot of choice in saying, we're not going to go at that pace because that's just not the nature of the business. So just a bad time. Bad timing.
Interesting, because a lot of other people did just get to pause.
Yeah.
And for you to have to rev it up.
Yeah, it was hard.
With no support. Wow. That's a lot.
With no support. All support removed. So it's been a crazy time. COVID's not my favorite for lots of reasons. It's super scary. I feel like it's affecting my kids negatively. It's terrible that all these people are passing away, obviously, and that people are losing their businesses and their homes, and it's just so hard. It's really hard for a lot of people.
Who do you see, do you have any examples of people in your life who seem to be doing better or whatever, just mentally? Do you have examples of any of your friends or, people who seem to have come through it okay? And can you tell why? Are there any themes of people who have, like I said, Jocelyn and I had a project, which I think really helped me because it made me feel more normal in the midst of, all that.
Right. I don't know. That's a good question. My friend Sandy is doing really well. But I just talked to a friend yesterday who was in the same boat. She was like, my business is busier than ever. I haven't been this busy in years. And now my husband is not comfortable with the cleaning person. And now I spend my entire day Saturday cleaning with my kids. So I feel like she's in a similar boat to me where, COVID for some people, it's made their business explode. Podcasting industry has exploded. She is in a high-end interior design furnishings. And she's like, everyone's redoing their house. Everyone. So I'm like, order. I can't catch my breath, which is a great problem to have. But now with the support being removed of her cleaning person, is the only one she mentioned. She's like, now I'm working 12-hour days every day, have 2 high schoolers, and can't seem to catch her breath. So I don't know. Sandy seems to be doing well, but her husband's home, working from home. And I don't know how I can one-to-one it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't know if you'd have an answer. I just was curious, if you look around. I mean, I feel like for me, the people who I see in my practice who are doing, worse, I would say, is like the loneliness, like people who are actually alone with no family. The loneliness is just crushing. And then I think there's also a lot of like what you're talking about with just like all of a sudden having to like work and cook and clean and do all those things. And then I see a lot of conflict between, like I said, like older kids and parents who really shouldn't be living together anymore.
You mean like out of the house older?
Like out of the house older who are back in the house.
Boy.
That's abnormal. I mean, that's like a recipe for friction.
For disaster.
I
know.
Yeah.
And so how's your move? How did it go? How do you feel about being where you are?
I mean, it's hot. That's a stupid thing to say, but I mean, it's oppressively hot.
Yeah.
My life is really, I work a lot and I hang out with my family. My life is like pretty small that way. And so the convenience factor for me of living here, and it's like my office is 8 minutes from my home, is 8 minutes from the school, is 8 minutes from the volleyball, and anything you could possibly, I mean, it's Florida, right? So like any store you need is 5 minutes away.
Right.
So moving from Los Angeles, which was just so difficult and inconvenient, like just getting anywhere and doing anything, I have so many extra hours in my day now. So for me, that's fantastic. I mean, I miss my friends, that kind of a thing, but I'm going to be an empty nester in 3 years. So I feel like eventually the world will be able to travel and see our friends again,
That's true.
So the convenience is just helpful for me.
That's great. That's great. So you're happy.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good.
You get a lot more for your money here too.
That's
the house is nicer.
And your state tax is nothing.
I mean, it's really good.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I was listening to an episode of a podcast on NPR, and I don't remember the name of the podcast, but they were talking about the housing market and how there is a mass exodus from large cities. That people now, because of the pandemic, have decided I need more space and I need more outdoor space. And people are just exiting every major city. And we find that's true with a lot of comics. There's a lot of comics going, why am I living in LA?
Really? Where are they going?
Austin, almost all of them.
Oh, that makes sense.
They're going to Austin, or a few I think are going to Nashville. But they're going somewhere where they can get more for their money, more space, and have a major airport nearby. So they can, because for comics, they just need to be able to fly when this all gets back to whatever normal may be coming. I don't know. When they can actually perform in large crowds, they'll just need to fly. So, Jocelyn, do you have any interest in moving out of LA? No, me neither.
No.
Me neither.
Sometimes I'd like to have, everybody would like to have a vacation home somewhere. But no, I right now I would like to be somewhere else, but generally speaking, I love Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I am the same. We bought this house like late September. We're still trying to start remodeling it. Thank you, City of LA, and the delays that has been happening during COVID to get our paperwork in order, our permits. But when this happened, we were like, do we sell it and move? Why are we staying here? And that's one thing COVID has done, made you evaluate your life and see what is important and what matters. And that was one of the questions. Why are we living here? And we were able to answer that question and decide to stay here. But it's interesting that so many people are answering that question with, I don't know. Where else can I be?
Yeah. I mean, for me, my family's this direction, and my husband's job moved us here, but so it was a pretty easy decision for us. But the whole, the COVID thing did make me realize, being so far from my parents during something like this, across the whole country, it's like, why are we doing that? Why not be closer? I can drive to my parents now, which just makes me feel.
That's great.
Yeah. Just makes me feel better.
Makes you feel better. Yeah. I wonder if I I hope that shift is permanent, actually. Mm-hmm. I hope working from home for people is permanent.
I mean, even another JP Morgan today I saw on the news said that they're going to make it permanent for their employees. So that's a big New York bank saying that it's going to be, the ability to work from home for, in some form, maybe you come once a week, maybe you come once a month. It'll be different for people, but, is forever now, which is going to be really interesting for real estate, all those big office buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it will. It will be interesting for, in that same podcast, 2 of the 3 people live in New York. One was in Brooklyn, one was in Manhattan. And they're like, people are just exiting. What's that going to do to the value of my apartment? And now someone's going to be able to come into New York and buy an apartment. It's kind of, in some ways, I feel like it's kind of leveling the playing field a bit. Mm-hmm. Because the housing market had gotten, especially in LA and New York and San Francisco, completely unattainable for most people. Yeah. So hopefully it'll just kind of, which is not great for me who just bought a house. So if the value of my house goes down, that's not great. But for the greater good, that might be really a good thing to have people.
Yeah. I find that interesting because the people that it's bad for are the people who can already afford homes.
That's right.
Right? Mm-hmm. But the people who've never been able to afford homes, those are the ones I'm a little more concerned about. I'm very concerned about you and the value of your home. But
no.
But generally speaking, it's outrageous here. The prices of homes should come down.
They should.
I think,
They should. I mean, there's a luxury line that will probably never go down. Not really. But the regular, like my little 3-bedroom house should not be worth what it's worth. I mean, I'm glad it's worth what it's worth because that's in my pocket. But I look at it and go, seriously? I mean, there's no way I would pay for this today. I paid for it at the bottom of the market after the housing crisis and got a great deal and put a lot of money into it and made it great. But I would never buy this house for that much money. It's crazy. So I don't know. Maybe that's one good thing that's coming out of COVID, right?
And I mean, the other thing for me that I think is a good thing, just because I am a therapist, is that people now realize that I think more people are accessing help because this therapy works really well this way. So, I mean, that I think is a positive for people who maybe wouldn't have even done it.
Right.
We're so afraid and anxious during this time that I think people reached out and, realize that, I don't have to go and be uncomfortable and sit someplace that doesn't feel right to me. I can actually just be in my safe little house and still get help. So some of those things are good.
That is an interesting conversation. When Bert finished with the Travel Channel and was having some PTSD stuff, and I finally said, you need to seek help. I knew he needed someone at the time who could Skype. That was really the only modality at the times before FaceTime even. And I only found one therapist in all of Psychology Today's list, one that would Skype.
Wait, when was this?
This was probably 5 years ago.
I mean, a lot of that was just how the states have to regulate things, was like regulation things. It's like, the industry itself wasn't comfortable with HIPAA compliance and that kind of a thing. So therapists even wanted to, but, technically we weren't allowed, depending on where you lived, So, but now that's just been totally
out the window.
Totally changed. Yeah.
Right. I think for the better. I think you're right. The number one problem with Bert being in therapy is that he's not physically in the same city ever. So I couldn't find him a therapist because I would call and go, here's the problem. He's on the road, and they go, well, then I can't treat him. And I go, oh, well, shit, man. How do I get this guy help?
Right.
And I only had that one option. And it really helped him. But I think that's brilliant. If people can access help through this modality, hell yeah. All day long. What is a HIPAA compliant? What does that mean?
Just that, we have to make sure that everything we do is actually confidential. And so Skype actually and FaceTime, they're not actually confidential. So, I mean, technically some hacker could come in and,
I see.
But there are lots of confidential ways of doing this now.
Got it.
I mean, tons of them just since this whole thing happened. So, I mean, again, like not every client cares. But I mean, we as the therapist, we have to, make sure that we're not putting them in a situation where someone could record their video and put it out. I mean, like, there are crazy people in the world, I guess.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
There are some crazy people.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest thing for you, Jocelyn, during this time?
My goddamn Wi-Fi connection.
Nothing more frustrating, is there?
Oh my God, the amount of time and money we have spent on this and to still be in this position. And I mean, my kids are doing online school. I always work from home. It's so frustrating, but that's not the worst thing. Hopefully that's not the worst thing, right?
No.
I mean, I don't think that I'm in a better position than most people because I'm divorced. So being divorced is actually really helpful in this situation because my kids go away.
Right.
And so, I get a little bit of a break. And so I really I have to say, I have it pretty good. I'm obviously very worried about that, people dying. I'm worried about the economy, about jobs, about all of those things. But generally speaking, day to day, I'm fine.
Right.
You know?
That's good.
Yeah. My girlfriend did say to me last week, she was like, "You're the busiest coronavirus person I know." Yeah, that is true. That is true, where I just take on lots of projects.
That's good though, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm like, oh God, I'm going to collapse too.
Yeah. Take a note from my page or something. Yeah. Take heed. It was not fun. It was very scary. And I have to say the emotional piece after that happened, I did not expect. I am such a put your head down and push through person that I was a bit of a wreck for like a week. I'd just cry spontaneously for no reason. It really shook me up. It really kind of, I don't know if I felt scared, but I felt very vulnerable and very, very shaken up by the whole thing, where I just, I couldn't. And I think we may have talked about this before when I did that personality test with that fella who said you're 98% other focused and this is not healthy. It made me feel like I had done no forward work for myself. It made me really upset with myself because I started my podcast to kind of start walking away from that 98% focused and start trying to focus on myself. And look what happens when the going got tough in life. I went right back into 98% other focus, like a knee-jerk reaction.
So hold on though, because you said there was nothing else you could have done. So thinking about it really now, really critically, what could you have done given what the situation was?
I don't really know. I tell Bert I'm not helping him. I'm not helping you with these two projects that are extremely important and that you can't do by yourself. But I would never have done that. That's actually the stuff I enjoyed that I would love working on. It was the minutia, the school, the cleaning the house, that stuff that I would have offloaded to someone else.
And by that you said you really couldn't, you were not able to. So it doesn't just saying, it doesn't sound like you actually went backwards. It sounds like it was COVID. I'm letting you off the hook unless you don't want to be let off the hook.
No. I'm happy to be let off the hook if that's really what's going on. I am one of those people that goes, what is my responsibility in this? So what is the answer? What's the toughest answer for yourself? Really, what is your responsibility in it? Was that I ignored my needs. This was what I thought. When the guy first came, I went, okay, here's what I do. Everyone else's want is a need, and my need is a want. A want is optional, always, but a need is never optional. So I just once again made my needs a want. Oh, you need 8 hours of sleep? No. You want 8 hours of sleep. Guess what? You're going to get 5 and be happy with it.
So be really concrete and specific. So if tomorrow the things go back into the exact same restrictions they were or whatever, what do you actually do differently to make it so that your needs get met? I think one of the things is to
pare down my to-do list and my expectations of what I can actually get done in a day, and not run myself into the ground.
So though there was some flexibility there, like you actually, not besides just the cleaning and Isla and the school and all that, you actually took on things that were, and Bert's work, other things that you could have let slide.
I don't know. I think maybe not let slide, but maybe not. Like, for instance, this is what I do. I sit down and I make a list, and I want to get that list done. As soon as I get it done, I can let go. But the list never stops. Right? So then as soon as I get half the list done, I've added that much more to the list, because that's the way life works, All of a sudden someone needs a dentist appointment, and you need to, get your tires changed, and the list just keeps going. But for some reason, my brain is looking for the list to stop, and it never stops. So I want to get the list finished. So I think that's a mind shift that I could probably take on, instead of needing that to be empty, to need to only take 2 or 3 things off, to know that it's never going to be empty, because I keep wanting it to be completely finished. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes it, as long as it makes sense to you when you're thinking about it going forward, is like, what, how do you prioritize things? I mean, is it school, Bert's work, just to make sure that because it sounds like you have a few non-negotiables in there that could fill up a whole list.
Yes, I do have a few non-negotiables that could fill up a whole list, for sure. Yeah. I think that's what makes it hard.
Yeah.
That there's too many non-negotiables. So how do I offload some non-negotiables? Like, if my house is dirty, it stresses me out, but I have to adjust maybe that a little bit and say, guess what? The toilet doesn't get scrubbed till Saturday. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't know. You were going to say something though, Jocelyn. What were you going to say?
I sent it in a chat. I'm going to start chatting you guys. That's what I'm going to do.
Don't know if you can see my chats, but might be interesting to talk about how hard it is to have your partner be on a different page with respect to how cautious you are being in COVID. I have that. Daryl has one lung. So he has one lung?
Oh, she's frozen.
I know.
Yes.
Why does he have one lung?
She
said, yes, he has one lung. But why does he have one lung?
It collapsed several times.
Why?
So what's it called? Spontaneous pneumonia. I don't remember what it's called.
It's a condition. It wasn't from an injury?
Yeah, it was a condition.
Oh, crazy. So yeah, he does have to be careful. Well, let's talk about what it's like to have a partner that's on a different page.
Well, because it sounds like that's what's going on a little bit with you and Bert too. Like that's tough. That is really tough. And it's like, in this case, we don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's not like, oh, I have a disagreement with you about this one little thing. It's like, okay, we're going to not permanently, but for a long time.
For a long time, what?
Change our lives in a way that, maybe doesn't feel good to one person.
Yes, it's definitely out of balance. That's for sure. In my situation, is very out of balance. It doesn't really affect Bert negatively that someone doesn't come and clean or walk our dogs. It affects me only negatively. So that is very hard. And I don't know how to fix that. Do you?
No. Kristen?
Well, I mean, that's, that's just one of those conversations, I guess, where for me, if I had you in my couples counseling, which would mean both of you would be there, it would literally be, getting your prioritized list of needs right now in this moment, like on a piece of paper, so that you can see, like, these are my top 5. And, you know what you just collapse. Like, you probably know what your top 5 are.
Yes.
And Bert gets to have his top 5 too. And some of them you guys have to do like for each other. And then some of them you have to allow the other person to figure out a way to get it done. And so, but now you have COVID and you have health on there, right? So it's like, it's usually pretty rare that there are actually deal breaker needs in couples' lives. Like, it's like to have another baby or not, that's one.
Right.
Like sometimes there are financial pieces, sometimes religion, but but this COVID health thing is interesting because like, are you putting someone's life at risk? Like, even if you don't believe that, if they believe that, does that give it more priority? So, I mean, the only way I know how to do it is to like get it on a piece of paper and say, like, we're going to do our best to make it feel fair. Like whatever that, like it won't be balanced. It won't be perfect, but I'm going to feel that like you're actually looking at my list and caring, and I'm looking at yours, and there's just no other way to do it.
That's really smart, actually, because fair is not equal.
No, exactly. That's fair. Exactly right.
And there were times where I felt like this is not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair that you get to leave your shoes everywhere in the house and I pick them up all day long. When now I also have to clean. Come on. I actually did have a conversation with him about that, and he did adjust somewhat, and then he left. So that adjusted it completely. But that's a really great idea, is to get it all down on paper, because we are on a different page. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, and the thing that I was going to say is like even something like cleaning, for example. So if it's really important to you to have a super neat, tidy, clean house, but it's not as important for him, like, then you've got to have that conversation, because it's your need more than it is his need, right? So like then he's doing something for you, but not him. That's why it's like getting them down and like digging into them one by one.
Right.
So that you can own like, okay, well, it's my need about the housekeeping. So the fact that you're not willing to do it, or whatever it is, I'm just saying, like, if you get it down, you can like dig in and be real about kind of who's doing what for whom, so that it feels like you're being heard. Right.
Okay. I can do that.
And kids too. Like this conversation about is like, if you're putting everyone's needs in front of your own, it's like seeing them all. Like we have this thing in the resilient space parenting thing, actually, where you just have a conversation about like, let's just have a family conversation about needs right now, because we're all trapped in the house together. And it's like, there's circles, right? So that there's no hierarchy. Everyone, it's like, Isla gets a circle, you get a circle, Bert gets a circle, Georgia gets a circle. And for the purpose of this, no one's are more important than anyone else's. And so you're going to say, like, what are your most important needs that would make your life as good as it could possibly be right now in this situation? And then let's figure out as a family if we can try to make this feel okay. Again, it's not going to be fair. It's not going to be balanced, but it's going to be everyone heard, that it's really important for you to get to have, 1 hour to yourself every day, or whatever it is. And so having that conversation, because the thing is like needs conflict. Someone can't have peace and quiet if someone needs to hear their music. So you got to have them all on the paper in front of you, and actually, give every person the floor to explain, why it's important, and then see like, how can you help?
Right. I think that's a great idea, especially the circles, because then nobody's more important.
Exactly.
Or even if you did it in 3 columns or 4 columns where everybody's just columned up.
Exactly.
That's a really great idea, because, my kids fight, which I'm sure is shocking in COVID.
No way. Right.
No, it's so crazy. But they fight about that exact thing. One kid wants quiet. The other kid is so freaking loud. And it swaps. Right? They swap back and forth, where one's quiet, the other one's loud, and then they swap. But I just parent in the moment. And instead of sitting down and going, let's lay everything on the table. And now we're all understood, especially to do it in a confrontational moment. Right?
It's like to help everyone. And then they can actually schedule, like, you get to be loud now, or you get to use this room now. I mean, it's so basic, but people don't do it. So you're just like putting out fires all the time, and then you're just refereeing, which is the worst part of parenting.
What's really interesting about parenting, I think, is that we really fly by the seat of our pants so much, instead of taking a pause and saying, how do I prevent? It's like taking care of your health. You don't go to the doctor so you're sick, instead of going for preventative medicine, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of parenting that happens out of necessity instead of out of planning, right?
Yep.
So I bet your resilience-based parenting helps you parent out of planning.
It's just helping you have those conversations that bring this stuff up. And in a moment, like you said, where you're not angry at each other.
Right.
It's like just bringing up those things so that you can all nicely and calmly have conversations where everyone can get heard, which just doesn't always happen in daily life.
No, it doesn't. And my family has gotten in the rut of, Isla's in her room, George is in her room, I'm in the kitchen, Bert's in the living room. We come together and have dinner every night. But other than that, we're off in our own little section of the house because, I don't know, maybe they're in school, they're FaceTiming their kids. And to come together and have a discussion is, I think, brings you closer together as a unit, right? As a family, to say, what's going on with everybody? And what do we need? And how can we help each other?
And I mean, like basic things, we might have said this on one of the podcasts here before, but especially COVID, like makes you, with everyone in the house, it makes you realize like something like having the news on, for example, seems like kind of something basic, but like maybe, you know, like in my household, now my husband, he travels all the time. Now he's not traveling. So he's home and his office is like right where the main television is, where you would be like kitchen den area. And it's always on the news, which is depressing and anxiety producing anyway, but my daughter just hates it. And so it's like just one of those conversations that like, for her to be like, say something when she's just walking by and irritated by it, it's like, he's like, it's my house. But like, if you have a conversation about what is something that would just make me more comfortable and feel happier in this house all day long, he'd be fine turning that off. He's not even watching it half the time, you know? Right. So like, that's why those conversations are just so helpful. You just learn something like, oh, I had no idea that you didn't like walking by that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. That's something I find is lacking now in my kids is, and I think this is completely normal, by the way, is a lack of, I wonder how this affects someone else in my house. Mm-hmm. They have no awareness of how their behavior is affecting other people. And sometimes I think they don't care. They really don't care. Right. They just need what they need when they need it. And then you can just deal with whatever. And I don't like that. Like, that's not who I am. And I don't think that's who I raised them to be. But in this moment, they seem to be very much like, sucks for you that you don't like what I'm doing. I've been trying a lot to get them to think about other people lately. And this is new, actually. I don't know if this is new because of their age or if it's new because they're so self-focused on connecting virtually with their friends and doing their own schoolwork. There's no sense of community in a real visceral kind of way. And they've just become more and more self-focused. Mm-hmm. Because I can't get them to like do anything kind for each other lately. Or maybe they're just cooped up together too long and they're sick of each other. You know, I don't know what it is. It's been,
I mean, I feel like when people are kind of anxious and it's like just hanging on, it's like everyone's sort of just like hanging on, trying to get through. I mean, it doesn't usually bring out the best in people. And I think like, I think they are just like tired of each other and like actually worried. Like when someone's, underneath that anxiety is like a worry, like maybe I'm not going to be okay. Like, what if I can't do this whole time?
Yeah.
Like, what if I don't do well enough in school? I mean, there's like legitimate, I don't know that there's really space. One thing I always think is a great resilience tool is to get totally out of your head and your life and go and do something, like go volunteer somewhere, like literally. So you're just like get such a different shift in perspective. You can't even think about your own problems.
Right.
But it's hard to do that right now because usually it's about like physically, going somewhere and spending a day or, going on a trip and building, whatever. And it's like, so, I mean, I'm sure there are ways to do that now, but it's just not as easy to totally shift out and become other focused like that. Because it's just going to be other on a screen again, or,
Yeah. It's not real.
Yeah.
Or it's not as real or as effective or whatever. It's just hard. This is a hard time.
Yeah.
Hard time. How do we wrap this up, ladies? Jocelyn's frozen again. Bless her heart. This would make me insane.
But
thank you. Sorry, I sucked. You did not suck. But I like the use of the flashcard. Very good. I love that. Yes.
Yes. She can still mark it, even if she's frozen.
I love it. That's a girl always thinking. She's always thinking, well, I am going to join this as soon as we get off because I'm excited to see what you guys did. Oh, I love you too. You know, we have the same birthday.
I can't believe that. That is so cool.
Happy birthday, Leanne.
Happy birthday.
A little late, but happy birthday. How was your birthday?
Oh, it was totally, well, the day was hard because it was the second day of school, but it was a great day.
That's good.
Yeah. How about yours?
Mine was amazing. You know, it was my 50th. And a few weeks ago, I started feeling really low because I wanted to have a dance party, like my own bat mitzvah kind of thing.
Nice.
It's like big time. I don't need the ceremony. I just need the dance party. But obviously in COVID, there's no dance party. So I was feeling kind of bummed, but I was really overwhelmed by the number of people who dropped off flowers, who dropped off cards. 2 different people snuck in my front yard and decorated.
That's so nice.
My husband sent me 50 roses. And I got cakes and people showed up with food and just dropped stuff off. And I just really I don't remember the last time I felt so loved by so many people. It was really, really sweet and special. And I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I'll take that every year on my birthday.
Good.
It was really fun.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I kept going. There were so many flower arrangements in my house. I felt like my house was full of friends. It was really cool.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was great. But, well, I can't wait to join this resilience-based parenting. I hope everybody else interested checks it out too. And if you go to MacdermottMethod.com/WOTP, you can join. And if you're coming upon this later, here it is. Then please.
The other thing that we're doing that's cool, and the last thing I want to say about it is one of my friends who has kids who are my older kids' ages. So she was like, are my kids too old for this or whatever? She was like, you let me know if they are or they aren't. And it kind of depends. Like, you know, if you're trapped at home with that age kid, it's just as powerful. But anyway, she was like, because either way, I want to sponsor someone. And we were like, we didn't even think of that. So then we set up a scholarship program for people to be able to sponsor a parent who, you know, can't afford it. And we're going to work with a couple of different organizations who do like parenting stuff for, I found one in Florida and we found one in LA that we're going to offer scholarships to parents.
Well, can I do some scholarships?
Well,
Wife
yeah.
of the party?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
I'll have some wife of the party scholarships.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That. Of course. I don't know how to do that. So maybe we'll chat off to see how you do that. I don't know if
it's basically just MacDermott Method /scholarship or resilience-based parenting /scholarship. So if anyone goes there, they'll find it.
Okay, good. Good. And then tell me really briefly about the divorce one.
So the divorce is, it's really how to, through that period of divorce and after, how to, you know, raise resilient kids, but also there's sort of 2 things that happen. Either people become decent co-parent or co-parents who have a decently conflict, you know, like not conflict free, but their relationship feels like they can call it co-parenting. Or there are those divorces where it just feels like it's parallel parenting because they just, you know, aren't on the same page. Either way, we're just trying to help parents in that situation get to the point where they feel like, you know what, my kids are going to be okay. Like divorce doesn't have to have long-term negative consequences. Like you can actually use this actual transition period of going through a divorce to become stronger, like stronger yourself, your kids stronger, and stronger as a family unit, whatever that looks like.
I love that idea. When you first told me that idea, I thought that's the most amazing thing ever because my parents parallel parented.
Yeah.
100%. And my takeaway from that parallel parenting was extremely confusing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was very confused about a lot of stuff. So, and that's not my fault. It was the parents' fault for not being on similar pages or finding some way to work together. I think that's also brilliant.
So for us, like it just takes the one parent. And like, again, even if the other person is not on the same page, it just takes that one parent to know like what kind of conversations to have in the household. to help your kids make sense of what's going on.
Of everything. Yeah. I love it. You guys are such brilliant, beautiful women on the inside and the out, and your brains are so impressive. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us again.
Thank you.
Anytime. I love talking to you guys. I know we always talk kind of in not straight lines.
Yep.
But I like that. I like that. And people who listen seem to like that too. So as long as you're cool with not talking in a straight line.
Absolutely.
We'll keep talking. Well, enjoy your day.
All right, you too.
The good thing about Florida is you look 5 years younger.
Oh yeah, my hair is really bad, but my skin's really good.
Yeah, right? My hair's terrible in Florida. It looks like this. It looks like this.
But it definitely puffs up the wrinkles, so that's good.
It does. It does. Well, Jocelyn, good luck with your Wi-Fi. Bye.
All right.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.